Hi, I'm Susan Carberry here at the Cake Cottage, and I wanted to give you a really simple and quick idea for Valentine's Day. What I like to do, instead of making a whole bunch of mini cakes, like using mini heart-shaped pans, what you can actually use are cookie cutters. So this is just a large heart cookie cutter, and then I've got a cake here. This was about 1 inch thick cake, and then I put a layer of filling in between. So it's great if you can do this, and then we can actually cut a whole bunch of these out. Now I did freeze this cake so it would be firm. It's kind of softened up a bit now. It has to be soft enough that you can actually cut through the filling, because sometimes that filling gets really hard, but it's going to be easier to cut, less fragile, and easier to ice if it is frozen when you do it. So this way I could get a whole bunch of hearts, you know, out of a big sheet. I would do one this way and then turn it this way and go on, so on and so forth. I just have a little piece here just so that I can show you. So what I do here is just go ahead and cut down like so, and then remove some of these little pieces. These little pieces, what you could use those for are your cake tops, right? My mom likes to use these for trifle too. And then you could take a spatula or a little knife and just make sure that it cuts all the way to the bottom, because the cake's a little bit thicker than the cookie cutter, right? So we want to make sure we go all the way down there to the bottom, remove some of this stuff, and then slide underneath it. See, this is what I'm talking about, just this little layer right there. Once you get it out, move this off to the side a little bit here. Okay, you can actually kind of push down the rest of the way and then actually push the cake out. And you can see this one isn't completely frozen. So like I said, if you can have it frozen, it'll work even better for you. Okay, we're back, and I've just placed it on this blackboard here so that you can see it. Do make sure that if you're just putting the cake directly on the board that the paper is food safe paper. This one is actually florist foil, so you would need a cardboard under this little cake so that that's not touching the florist foil, since it's not FDA approved. So now I'm just going to take some buttercream and just place a little right on top, or a lot. You're probably like, that's a little? You're crazy? Yeah. A lot of times people don't put enough on it first. But don't worry, because we're actually going to end up taking a little bit off. So you just go over the top and then around the sides. Doesn't have to be real thick. It's just basically our little crumb coat here. And then I'll show you how we will remove the excess. Try to keep your spatula straight going across this way and then straight up and down here. Once we get it all covered, like it is now, then what I can do is come back with my icing blade smoother, which I love. I use this on all my cakes, and I just come up right at the bottom and then just slide. And once you get so far in, you'll remove the excess, and then we'll come back and start in here, come down. When I get to the point, I like to come this way and back. I don't like to come this way over the point, because sometimes it'll kind of rip that cake there. Then come in from the top. After a couple swipes, clean this off again. It tends to want to push the icing over like that, which is fine. Then we'll just come back over probably one more time around here, and it's good to go. Again, with the cake being real cold or frozen, you won't have a crumbly mess on your hands. So what I could do here is just trim around here a little bit. Not really trim, but what I'm doing is just removing that excess icing. I'm going to be covering this with rolled fondant, because that is the quickest way to do these little mini cakes. All right, so I'm going to be covering this one with white fondant. Put that off to the side. And you always want to make sure that you knead your fondant up first. Let me move that out of the way. Make sure that there's no cake crumbs here. And you just want to make sure that you knead this up. Give it the elasticity that it needs. I'll be back in 30 minutes after I have to, no, I'm just kidding. All right, work it, work it. Probably the only workout I'm going to be getting today. All right, little bit of cornstarch here, and dust the surface. You can use powdered sugar also. And then I'm just going to roll this out with my humongous rolling pin here. Make sure it doesn't stick. You never flip it over. And you don't want it to be too thick, yet too thin either. Usually around 1/8 of an inch or less. This is way more than I'll need. Yeah, it takes me longer sitting down rolling this out than standing up. Okay, so I know I'm not going to need all of this, so I'll just take some off, this thick part here. And then I will just bring it over like this, slide the cake back over towards me, lift it up, place it over, smooth the top first, then lift this up with the creases, and I like to kind of get the center part down there first. Turn it. Continuously turn it around. See how I gently open that up and then bring that in. Voila! Okay. So once we get that, it's all nice and smooth. Can't feel any air pockets. Then what I'll do is just take a small little pizza cutter here and trim this excess, flip it over. If there's any cake crumbs there, I want to get those out. And we will put a border around here, so it's okay if you have it be a little bit short, you'll be okay. So what I like to do is just kind of tuck this in around the edge just a little bit. Just push in. You can use that, or you can use, this is my favorite thing to use, the offset little palette knife here. See how that can just tuck that fondant right in underneath. Okay, awesome. Now make sure that you put your fondant away so it doesn't dry out. And now we're going to go on to pipe. What I think I'll do is go ahead and move this bucket over here so that I can actually pipe more at eye level. Okay, so this is a number 4 tip with just some red buttercream, and I'm just going to do little pearls. I'm going to squeeze, stop squeezing, move the tip to the side. That way, moving the tip to the side, you're less likely to get those little points. And notice how I squeeze with my right hand, I actually steady it with my left hand. Okay, squeeze, stop squeezing, and the key really is just to be consistent. So just start with a size and end up with that same size, and that would be fabulous. There we go, all the way around, nice clean border, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Well, I wanted to do some lettering on here, and I know a lot of us don't like to actually write lettering with the bag and the buttercream. So I have these letters already cut out here, and these are cutouts with the FMM tappets, which are the funky style tappets. A lot of people have these, and a lot of people don't use them because they don't know how to use them correctly, and they get frustrated. So let me show you how I use them. A lot of times gum paste actually works better in them than fondant, but I'm always using fondant. This is some red fondant that I've already rolled out, and it's extremely thin. You want it to be very thin, cannot be too thick for any of these tappets. You want to also make sure that it will slide like this, and that way when we cut the letters, we'll be able to get a nice cut on them. So let's see, one of our letters is the O here. So after it dries a little bit, what you do, and I cut it in strips so that I can take the letters and put them across this way. That way I don't waste a big piece of fondant, letting it all dry out. Push down like this and give it a little wiggle. Okay, open it like this, go over with your thumb, and I usually will pop out that middle part. And then you come to the edge of the table right here, and you just go like that, and that's why they're called tappets. You just tap it like that, and then it comes out really nice. But if you've just rolled out your fondant, if it's too thick, it's going to get stuck in there. If it's too soft, because you just rolled it out, it will stick in here and you'll have maybe half a letter come out. So that's the trick to using those. Don't leave the fondant like sitting out for an hour or even a half hour, because then, and this is borderline because right here it's starting to get a little, kind of crack a little bit, because then when I go to press the letters, right now it's still perfect, but when I go to press the letters, they might crack on me and not look so nice on the cake. So then what I want to do is lift these up, and again, I love this spatula because you can get under these letters, whereas a regular spatula is a little bit thicker. So let me just pop these on top first before I actually attach them, because we know what happens, don't we, when red and white fondant, if we put the water on, and it can bleed actually on you. So let me actually see if I want it like that or if I want an angle. I think we'll just do straight across like that. Okay, so then what I'll do is just take a small brush and a little bit of water, so it's right here, and even just dab some of the water like off. You can have a paper towel there that you can get some of that off. A lot of times I'll start with the center letters, just put a little bit of water underneath there. Again, if you kind of move these into a different position, some of the red could bleed onto the white, so be careful with that. And our last letter here, I'll look at it from the front one more time to make sure everything's nice and even. Now, if you do get a little bit of a smudge with the red bleeding onto the white, you can actually get it off with the water brush. Just dip it in some clean water. Like there's actually a little bit here. I don't know if it shows up on the camera. So dip it in and get some clean water on that, kind of get some of it off, and then just come back and just kind of rub that area just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. Just like that. Hey, and this could be just a simple cake like this, or you could turn it into something fancy like this. This one was actually made with the curved heart cookie cutter. So again, you can make a cookie like this, or you can do the little cakes. And this one is done by just adding other little heart cutouts and things. Here's some fondant, just used, let me move this over, use some little hearts, cut them out like so. A couple little cutters, couple little maybe flower cutters here. These are plunger flowers, and you can just kind of pop some of those out. To get this out, I pop it out with the back of a paintbrush. So with these, you can just kind of attach some of these here and there. Maybe on this one we'll just do a little bit of a design rather than the entire cake. So you basically, I put usually the larger pieces on first and then the smaller ones if you're going to do the entire thing like this. So I started with all these large ones first, then I went back with the small hearts, and then with the small flowers, and then did the piping. So I have the red in a bag here with a tip number 2. Always make sure your tip is clean. And all I did was come out from the side here, just squeeze and just give it a little bit of a curve here and here, maybe a little on this side, come out over here. So just little random kind of curvy type things. And then in between, I went back and just did some little dots in between, like so, to make that kind of just fill in that area. So maybe we'll just do a little bit here at the top. See how that looks with just a few spots. But you can pretty much do whatever you want. These are great if you want to just give something to maybe the teachers at school, if you're still allowed to do that in your area. Or you could give it to, you know, people at church or anything like that. Anything that you have to give a lot of items to. Or you could even do this for weddings, right? Okay. dot there, maybe a little dot there. And voila, just a simple little cake. So we've got our 2 little cakes here, like this. And I think these would be great little Valentine gifts.